Completed stories are always the best value, so don't eat any candy while watching because this romance is already sweet enough to rot your teeth.
At a classmate reunion, his rich ex-girlfriend mockingly stares at his wedding ring, telling him to bring his wife around, but he just lies about her living abroad.
Later, she corners him, asking when he is divorcing his wife, since she heard she was just her substitute, eventually crying and begging Ji Boda to comfort her.
At their reunion, Liu Ruyan stands out among their out-of-shape classmates, and even though he sits in the farthest corner, his eyes lock onto her immediately. The moment their eyes meet, his heart panics, looking at her mature, stunning face that feels so familiar yet completely foreign, like they're from different worlds. 8 years have passed, and this sudden reunion catches him off guard as she casually looks at his ring and asks if he is married, while he stays silent.
Their old classmates start teasing her, calling her the only single elite left, but then they mention rumors of her marrying a high-ranking politician's son. After a few drinks, someone in the crowd loudly asks if Ji Boda regrets dumping her back then, pointing out he would have been a wealthy noble today. Everyone stares at him, but he just laughs it off, saying they were young and dumb back then.
Liu Ruyan slowly swirls her wine glass, her eyes sweeping over him with a highly sarcastic smirk as she speaks up.
She mockingly tells him to bring his wife around so she can see his taste, leaving him utterly speechless because he was the one who dumped her.
Back then, he coldly told her she wasn't his type, and over the years, she had barely even appeared in his dreams.
He thought they were completely done, but the nosy classmates keep pressing him, asking when he got married and why nobody was invited to the wedding.
When he claims it was after graduation, they mock him for never posting her, jokingly asking if she is too old and ugly to show.
Clenching his fists until his nails dig into his palms, he takes a deep breath and quietly repeats that she lives abroad while everyone snickers.
They love the drama because everyone knows their breakup was incredibly messy, with her begging outside his dorm all night while he coldly shut her out.
Now that she has returned rich and successful, it feels like a massive slap to his face, and his fake classmates are eager to rub it in. Someone smugly points out that her company just acquired the firm Ji Boda works for, meaning she is literally his new boss now.
They immediately start peer pressuring him, telling manager Ji to pour a drink for his new boss, so he stands up and downs his glass in one shot.
With red eyes, he asks her to take care of him, but Liu Ruyan just chuckles, saying, of course, considering their deep personal history together.
She emphasizes that last part, and meeting her intense gaze, his chest tightens up, making him quickly excuse himself to the restroom to escape the pressure.
Splashing ice-cold water on his hands, he stares at his 30-year-old reflection in the mirror, trying to process everything. In the next room, he hears some classmates laughing about how Ji Boda still looks like he is in his early 20s, mocking his obsession. But then someone scoffs, questioning if he is actually married since he has no kids and has never once posted a picture of his wife.
They gossip that he must be some rich sugar mama's boy toy, pointing out his expensive Audi A6 and city center apartment.
They laugh that a poor kid like him could never afford that on his own, saying if he had stayed with her, he would be swimming in billions. Still, they admit he did all right for his background, though they wonder how someone as rich as Liu Ruyan ever fell for him, especially since he dumped her.
They mockingly assume he must be filled with absolute regret, and hearing this, he just smiles bitterly as he walks out, wondering if he really does. But he doesn't, because he always knew she was destined for greatness, remaining a shining star whether it was 10 years ago or 10 years later. She has always lived an enviable life, the wealthy school beauty at 18 and a brilliant foreign doctorate graduate at 30, while everyone else was struggling just to pass.
Her wealthy parents paved a smooth path for her to study at top universities abroad, while he had to struggle just to buy a small apartment. While he was proud of making $500,000 a year, she was already a multi-millionaire young entrepreneur, making her feel completely out of his league. If she was his dream back then, she is completely untouchable now, and he never expected to cross paths with her again since she lived abroad.
She had never attended any reunions before, so he definitely did not expect the daughter of the massive conglomerate that bought his company to be his ex-girlfriend. Thinking about his heavy mortgage and car loans, he suppresses the urge to resign, telling himself to take it day by day since she probably moved on. He books a designated driver on his phone and steps outside, the freezing winter wind hitting his face as he shivers in his coat, waiting.
No driver takes his order, but suddenly a sleek blue Rolls-Royce Phantom slowly pulls up in front of him, and the driver opens the back door.
As the driver greets the boss, he looks back to see Liu Ruyan walking up, wearing a stunning custom designer dress that highlights her figure.
Exuding pure wealth, she glances at him and checks her watch, calmly offering him a ride since the location is so remote, but he tries to refuse.
She asks if he still has feelings, mocking if he really thinks she would be desperate enough to throw herself at a married 30-year-old man. A cold smirk plays on her lips as she orders him to brief her on company projects during the ride, making further refusals seem incredibly awkward.
He quickly gets in and starts reporting about his role as manager of Project Department 2, explaining the team structure and their future expansion plans.
She listens quietly while he notes that his department was established 3 years ago and is currently ranking #1 in performance across the company. With her still showing zero reaction, he awkwardly adds that he will send over a highly detailed written summary of their work tomorrow morning. After a long and tense silence, she suddenly breaks the quiet by asking him if he was the one who planned this year's Health and Culture Festival.
A heavy silence hangs in the air. Their company was just acquired, and she asks manager Yu what he thinks about the upcoming layoffs.
An acquisition is great for the resume, but it is always a double-edged sword. Some see opportunities while others live in constant fear. Everyone is terrified of getting fired, but he knows he just has to play along and trust the leadership. Ji Boxiao steels himself to give a perfectly safe corporate answer. Her eyes narrow as she lets out a sudden, careless chuckle. She mocks how smooth and polished he has become. Suppressing his bitterness, he replies that President Liu has grown up quite a bit too.
Her quiet laughter mocks his transformation, breaking the heavy silence. And honestly, he really has changed a lot over the years.
He learned to walk with his head high, project confidence, flatter the higher-ups, and act slick. He is no longer that insecure poor kid. Yet Liu Ruyan's mocking laugh instantly drags him back to the dark days when he was buried in the dirt. His mother abandoned him at birth because they were dead broke, and his deadbeat father dumped him with his grandma to run off with other women. After getting locked up for robbery, his dad left his grandma to raise him by collecting trash. Ji Boxiao grew up in the mud, but Liu Ruyan was different.
She was a cloud in the sky, absolute polar opposites. They first crossed paths when he was 16. He was collecting recycling with his grandma right outside her luxury villa, wearing split-open shoes and a baggy, faded uniform. Her mother felt sorry for them, calling out for Liu Ruyan to bring down any old cardboard boxes and plastic bottles.
She ran down in a white dress, hair damp, looking like a literal webtoon protagonist as she handed him the boxes.
He looked down at his broken shoes and faded uniform, face burning with shame as he muttered a quick thank you.
She told him to wait and ran back to grab more. Her mother noticed his extreme embarrassment and gave him a warm smile. She gently patted his head, telling him to study hard so he could build a better life.
Tears welled in his eyes as Liu Ruyan returned with a massive pile of recycling. It was incredibly touching yet agonizingly humiliating.
Right then, he swore to study like his life depended on it, dreaming of owning a mansion like hers by the time he turned 30. But reality is a beast. Sitting inside her luxury ride, looking out at the night sky, the difference is low-key heartbreaking. No matter how fast a train runs, it can never catch up to a jet. At 30 years old, the gap is unreal. He drives an Audi 6 while she has a Rolls Royce. He wears a Longines while she wears a Patek Philippe. Hard work is not always enough. Some people are just born in Rome. Your lifetime grind might only get you to the suburbs, while she moves downtown. The driver snaps him out of his thoughts. They have arrived. He puts on a polite corporate smile, thanking President Liu. Liu Ruyan smirks, teasing him about having a strict curfew. Speechless, he can only reply with a soft goodbye.
As he opens the door and cold wind rushes in, her quiet voice cuts through the chill, asking Ji Boxiao if he has been doing well.
That single question nearly shatters his entire composure. He fights back the tears welling up in his eyes. He calmly replies that he is doing great, then steps out of the car, taking a deep breath. As he goes to close the door, their eyes lock in a heavy, silent gaze. His heart races. She quietly asks if his partner is good to him. He lies and says yes, and she whispers, "That is good." Almost tripping, he turns to leave, but her voice calls out again, asking if he will even ask how she has been all these years. He turns to face the girl he dreamed of for years. Bro, this reunion is actually crazy.
So he asks how she has been. Standing against the light, she gives a bittersweet smile, saying she is both good and not.
Then she drops a bomb, saying she is getting married. He forces out a wish for her lifetime of happiness.
He pretends to be unfazed, smiling as she quietly wishes that they both get a happy ending. Tears blur his vision as she fades into the night. Turning away, his walls finally crumble. 8 years down the drain. He thought he was over her, but the pain is still raw. Why did they ever meet if it had to end like this? Was their short-lived love a blessing or a curse? It was beautiful, brief, and deeply tragic. Let us flash back to high school. A gorgeous new transfer student stood at the front of the class. The guys whispered, and he peeked up. She had grown taller since they last met. When asked where she wanted to sit, she chose the quietest, smartest student.
And then boom, she becomes his desk mate. No excitement here, guys, just pure, unadulterated panic.
He was terrified she would recognize him as the trash collector. She waved, introducing herself as Liu Ruyan.
He nervously looked down, whispering his name was Ji Boxiao. She smiled, repeating his name warmly.
From that day on, she constantly tried to talk to him, asking about his hobbies and his favorite foods. She kept asking about his favorite songs and why he was so smart. He just kept his head down, staying silent. Liu Ruyan was the ultimate school goddess, super polite, gorgeous, and basically every guy's dream girl. Guys kept using our main character, Ji Boxiao, to pass her love letters, but since he's super shy, he'd literally stress out for hours before handing them over, feeling like he was the confession itself. He finally hands one over, but she just sighs, wishing the person she actually liked would write her one instead.
Then she turns to him and asks what his own love letters would look like. Naturally, our boy's face turns instant beet red.
He stammers about how high schoolers shouldn't date, but she just laughs and says they can wait until graduation. Talk about a heart-fluttering moment. She teases him for blushing, asking if he has a crush. He pretends to read, but his heart is absolutely racing. That night, he couldn't stop thinking about it. If he actually confessed to his crush, what would he even write?
He thinks of a famous poem. If he loves her, he won't be like a clinging vine, using her status to show off.
He won't be a bird singing the same old song either. He wants to stand beside her as an equal, strong and independent. 2 trees standing together, sharing the storm. That is the kind of love he secretly dreams of. He wants a deep, equal love. But back then, he was trapped in a cycle of extreme poverty and self-doubt. He was too ashamed to even look up. He wore a cheap 25 yuan pair of clearance shoes for 2 whole years. His feet were size 43, but the shoes were 42. He used 502 glue to fix them and white chalk to hide the yellow stains. He'd stare at the new shoes in the shop window. They were 88 yuan. No big brand, just clean and new. They would actually fit his feet. But 88 yuan meant his elderly, sick grandma would have to scavenge trash for weeks. Seeing her struggle just to walk made him kill any hope of buying them. Until one day, another kid got them. He watched that mother gently check if the shoes fit her son. It made him wonder what having a mom felt like. He never knew his mother. And to make things worse, his gym teacher called him out in front of everyone for not wearing athletic shoes. The teacher demanded to know how he expected to run. Everyone stared, and Ji Boxiao wanted the ground to swallow him whole. He just lied and said he forgot. But then, one day after school, Liu Ruyan suddenly sneaks up on him. "Happy birthday, Ji Boxiao!" She beams at him, her ponytail glowing in the sunset as she asks if he is surprised. She peeked at his ID to find out his birthday, and now she's shoving a gift bag into his hands. She claims they were free, buy one get one free, pointing to her own new white shoes. Inside his box is a matching black pair. But he knows that brand. They are insanely expensive, only sold in luxury malls. He tells her he cannot accept them. She asks if he is turning them down because they were free. Panicking, he stammers that they are just way too expensive. She pulls out a receipt showing a $0 balance to prove it, but he still keeps shaking his head. At this point, she gets genuinely upset, asking if he even considers her a friend after all this time. He panics, so she softens her voice, saying it is actually a bribe. She needs him to tutor her for the TOEFL exam.
Seeing him hesitate, she literally begs him, pointing out that professional tutors charge a fortune anyway.
She claims she is actually getting a bargain, cuts off his protests, and gently pats his hair to seal the deal. She tells him that life will get better. Hearing this, he remembers her mother saying the exact same thing years ago. She told him to study hard so he could change his future. Both mother and daughter are so incredibly kind, shielding his fragile pride without ever making him feel lesser.
Under the beautiful sunset, she walks backward in front of him, looking absolutely ethereal.
She asks him to buy her glass slippers one day. She is a literal princess, and he is definitely no prince.
From then on, he tutors her every single day. She is super smart and picks up everything instantly.
But tutoring her also opens his eyes. While normal kids are killing themselves studying for college, her path is already paved.
She is going to a prestigious school abroad. The tuition alone is a massive, unreachable number for someone like him.
It is a different world. He almost had to drop out of high school over just 1,200 yuan.
His family could only scrape together 800. His grandma spent sleepless nights worrying, forcing him to make a desperate move.
He asks the teacher for more time, which leads to the teacher launching a class charity drive for his tuition. Classmates chip in 10, 20, or 50 yuan. He has to stand on stage enduring their pitying stares, bowing to thank them while his dignity crumbles to dust. But then, Liu Ruyan storms up and drags him down. She literally returns every single donation and pays his remaining tuition herself, demanding to know why he did not just ask her. She corners him, completely furious, but he just stands there, refusing to admit he did not want her pity. Even though they were supposed to be equal, Ji Boxiao didn't know how to speak. He mumbled promised to pay her back soon, bowed deeply, and thanked her for her quiet understanding. That winter break, everything changed.
He found a job painting fishing rods at a factory out in the suburbs. The chemical fumes were so incredibly toxic that people warned it caused lung cancer, making most people avoid it. But making 80 yuan a day was still enough to attract desperate people who literally had to trade their health and lives just to survive.
After that winter break, he finally paid Liu Ruyan back. Her face went cold, and she asked him with a chilling look if he really hated being in her debt. Our guy used to write perfect score essays in school, but he never expected to be so completely speechless. At that moment, 1,000 words just turned into a quiet apology, and classmates started gossiping. The whole classroom started gossiping like crazy. Some claimed Liu Ruyan liked him, while others said she just pitied his poor background. It made him seriously panic. Did he actually like her? Honestly, he did not even dare to think about it. The gap between them was like heaven and earth, and he knew they had zero future. So he began to actively distance himself. He deliberately kept his distance, which only made her hold back her anger. Until one day, a guy sitting behind him threw a coin at him with pure contempt, telling him to keep the change. That bully had a massive crush on Liu Ruyan and absolutely hated seeing her follow our main lead around. Seeing Ji Boxiao get mad, the bully just laughed it off. He told him not to get mad over a joke. That was the exact moment Liu Ruyan completely snapped. She asked if they were even close, then threw her entire wallet in his face. She mocked his own words, telling him not to get mad since it was just a joke. It was the first time anyone had seen her unleash such a raging storm of anger. Both of their parents were called to school, and that was the day Liu Ruyan's mother approached him. She was elegant and gentle, asking if he was her daughter's deskmate. She mentioned that Liu Ruyan was suddenly throwing a fit about wanting to stay in the country for college, asking if he knew why. Ji Boxiao just silently shook his head. She told him that real love should lift both of them up instead of causing anyone to compromise. She asked him to help convince her, leaving him deeply conflicted. After a long struggle, he finally gathered his courage and found Liu Ruyan, straight up telling her that she should go study abroad. She was completely caught off guard. She looked disappointed and asked if he truly wanted her to leave. He stared at the floor for what felt like an eternity before whispering for her to go see the world for him. All the complex feelings in his heart boiled down to just a few soft words. He promised he would work hard too, determined to build a future of his own, and hoped they would meet at the top.
Agreeing to go, she made him promise never to avoid her again, wanting things to be like they used to. He nodded, and she smiled.
Gently patting his head, she assured him that everything would turn out fine. From that moment on, their bond grew much closer. She loved talking to him about anything and everything. Most of the time, she did all the talking while he just listened, but whenever he caught her intense gaze, he would immediately look away. Her soft chuckles at his shyness always made him blush, but being this close meant they were bound to hit some awkward moments. Since she was pretty tomboyish and careless, she stained her pants during her period without even realizing. At dismissal, he quickly took off his school jacket and tied it around her waist to savor the embarrassment. They were both incredibly embarrassed. He ran to the convenience store and stood there totally lost, staring at all the different brands of pads, having no idea which one she actually used. He scratched his head, stumbling through an explanation as she shyly took them. He also remembered hearing that girls need warm drinks during their cycle, so he made a move. Buying her a cup of instant milk tea, the famous brand endorsed by Ji Boxiao, he watched her cheeks turn bright red. She held the cup, drinking happily, before tilting her head to ask him what that famous commercial slogan about being his favorite milk tea actually meant. She stared straight into his eyes, waiting. He pretended not to know, making her tease him. She laughed that a top student who got 135 on his exams could be this clueless. Of course he knew exactly what it meant. The sweet slogan ended with saying that being her milk tea meant he could always keep her warm in his hands. Standing under the warm sunset, Liu Ruyan looked up and asked him if he knew which track by Ji Boxiao was her absolute favorite. She looked directly into his eyes.
She softly sang the lyrics about someone loving him for a very long time. For a guy who had always walked in the cold shadows, she became his sudden, beautiful sunny day.
He told her it was beautiful. She just playfully waved it off, jokingly claiming she was barely even trying and had way more talent to show. Even though she promised to show her real skills next time, the exam countdown kept ticking, bringing their departure closer by the day. At their graduation party, she stepped on stage in a stunning gown, sat at the piano, and sang that same beautiful melody again. Listening to her sing about the wind blowing them apart made his heart ache, knowing they still had to say goodbye in the end. It was a song about farewells, but she wanted to say it with a smile. The crowd erupted into wild cheers and applause, while he just sat there silently. Their eyes met in a silent, shared connection from across the room. She smiled, and though he kept a straight face, his heart was racing. Years later, he finally recognized that feeling as love. Love was definitely in the air. That summer, he wrote a famous love poem on her textbook, and she helped him set up his first online chat account. The password was JWYZY23626. She used her initials and birthday, joking that she said it this way so he could never forget her. They kept this sweet shared secret for years, but when the graduation party night arrived, he skipped it because the 100 yuan split was simply too expensive for him to afford. When Liu Ruyan eventually tracked him down, he had just finished a grueling shift at the electronics factory. College tuition was massive, and he had to work to survive. He wished her a smooth journey, but she laughed and said, "You do not say that to someone flying." Embarrassed, he admitted he had never been on a plane before. With a gentle pat on his head, she promised he would fly plenty of times in the future, carefully protecting his fragile pride. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, handmade fox keychain. He knew she loved the character, so he had worked on it secretly. Every night, he had carved out precious time to make it by hand, but it looked so cheap and ordinary that he almost lacked the courage to give it to her, fearing she would hate it. He awkwardly handed it over, hoping she would not mind, but when she realized he made it himself, her eyes went wide with pure joy. Boxiao treasures that one-of-a-kind keychain, keeping it safe. Honestly, the sweetest yet most heartbreaking part is that he never told Liu Ruyan the Ari keychain was actually a matching pair. He silently kept the other half for himself. At their farewell, Liu Ruyan opened her arms and asked Boxiao for one last embrace. As they hugged, the warm, sunny scent of her clothes made him think of happier days as she whispered softly in his ear. She whispered that everything would be okay, but that was their final moment together. Soon after, they both chased their own paths, ending up on opposite sides of the world, living completely separate lives. If only their story actually ended right there. That bittersweet phase of being more than friends but less than lovers, hiding a deep crush they never dared to confess. That final hug was the closest they ever got.
If it stopped there, their memories would only be sweet, with none of the agonizing drama that followed. He used to imagine meeting Liu Ruyan again at age 30, only to hear her announce she was getting married. In that fantasy, he would smile and hand her a massive cash gift. He would congratulate her on the wedding and thank her for always looking after him back in their school days. He might even joke about how he used to have a massive crush on her. It would have been lighthearted and painless, a sweet trip down memory lane instead of the harsh reality he faces now. Because in reality, he has to fake a smile, wish her a lifetime of happiness, and then break down in tears the moment she turns away. But he just wipes his face, telling himself to sleep it off. He forces himself to believe tomorrow will be better. He puts on his mask and heads home, but the moment he steps out of the elevator, a harsh voice demands to know why he is back so late. His biological father, Yu Ji-hai, is sitting right by the door, complaining about waiting for hours. A year ago, the police contacted Boxiao to let him know this man was finally being released from prison.
To Boxiao, the word father was just something from a textbook. Books claim a father's love is as steady as a mountain, but this man was a ghost who barely showed up in his life.
Niebuhr said his mother abandoned him because they were dirt poor. Meanwhile, his dad was always out running wild, only showing up on rare occasions during the new year. Debt collectors were constantly at their door. The dad even stole Boxiao's school savings from his grandmother and called him a burden before getting locked up for 15 years for armed robbery. You would think 15 years in prison would actually reform a man, but some people are just built different in the worst way. They are rotten to the core and will never change. This endless harassment is a total nightmare. Even calling the police does nothing since the law says he is obligated to support his father. And now the old man has a ridiculous new demand. He blocks the door like an absolute parasite, demanding 300,000 yuan so his other son from a new marriage will recognize him. Boxiao completely snaps, asking why he should give him 300,000 when the man never even spent 3 yuan on him, but the dad just shouts that he is his father. He claims that since Boxiao shares his blood, he owes him. He demands the cash so he can have a comfortable retirement, promising to never show his face again once he gets paid. Boxiao refuses to give him a single dime, but this shameless man threatens to camp out in the hallway, letting all the neighbors know what an unfilial son he is. Honestly, this constant harassment is like trying to shake off a parasite. This chaotic, exhausting life is enough to drive anyone absolutely insane. He puts in his earplugs and gently strokes Chewy, a stray cat he rescued 6 years ago, feeling the soothing vibrations of the cat's soft purring. Chewy was a poor, silver-shaded kitten back then, covered in skin disease, limping and shivering in the freezing cold on New Year's Day. Boxiao told the kitten that since they were both abandoned souls, they should stick together. He spent months getting him treated until the little guy finally recovered. Over the years, Chewy grew round and healthy, though he still limps. Every night, no matter how late Boxiao gets home, Chewy is there, limping and meowing to welcome him. Falling asleep to those soft purrs makes all the misery and stress of his workday completely melt away. It is pure healing for his soul. They went from a tiny rented room to a new apartment, and from cheap kibble to fancy imported cans. They built their own little world, step by step. Meanwhile, at work, the new boss, Liu Ruyan, is already shaking things up with some massive corporate restructuring. The logistics department is the very first to get hit. Overnight, several people are laid off. While everyone is stressing about their jobs, it also becomes the hot topic for office gossip. The coworkers keep raving about how gorgeous and rich President Liu is, but someone quickly brings up her recent financial interview, pointing out that she is already engaged to be married. Apparently, in her interview, she mentioned her ideal type is a tall, quiet, introverted guy, prompting one of the guys to vow to hit the gym immediately. Just as they are laughing, a senior colleague chimes in, saying President Liu looks incredibly familiar, like someone he has met before. Everyone teases him since she lived abroad, but he insists she is familiar. Boxiao rubs his temples and knocks on the desk, telling everyone to get back to work. Suddenly, the colleague slaps the table, staring at Boxiao. He shouts out that he remembers now. She looks exactly like manager Yu's wife. He says he never forgets a beauty, and the photo of Boxiao's wife is a dead ringer for President Liu. The only difference is the vibe. He asks if they are sisters, which makes the whole office go wild. They start begging Boxiao to show them his wife's photo again to compare. Boxiao starts panicking and claims he recently got a new phone with no photo saved. He quickly makes an excuse and escapes the awkward situation. Staring at the ring on his finger, he sighs. There is actually no wife. He bought the matching ring himself and lied about being married. He did it to avoid unwanted matchmaking and aggressive flirting, and also to dodge those sketchy, unwritten rules of corporate drinking culture. By pretending to be happily married, he avoided a ton of office drama and unwanted advances. Deep down, he knew he would never actually marry anyway. When colleagues kept prying, he lied that his wife was living abroad, but they always demanded to see photos. Back then, the only photo he had was an old picture of Liu Ruyan. It is for the best, he thinks. A poor guy like him could never match her. Whoever she is marrying must be incredibly successful. Suddenly, his phone rings. The HR manager frantically tells him that someone claiming to be his father is causing a massive scene at reception. Boxiao hangs up, his heart dropping, and rushes down to the lobby as fast as his legs can carry him. The lobby is already packed with a massive crowd. People are filming everything on their phones. There sits Yu Zihai on the floor, throwing an absolute tantrum without a shred of shame.
He screams at the top of his lungs, telling everyone that his unfilial son went to school, got successful, and now completely abandoned his poor, helpless father. The crowd starts whispering. How can someone live in luxury while letting his own dad starve?
Unbelievable. He always seemed so nice, but he abandons his own father? Boss Fang spots him. Deal with your dad. A public disaster. Everyone is staring. The abusive father yells louder. Suddenly, our MC is hit with intense high school gym class PTSD. Canvas shoes, cruel whispers. He thought he left that pain behind. Humiliated. But then, Ryan steps in. He loses his mind, screaming at Ji Boxiao. Ji Boxiao is literally trembling with rage. Why is his own father trying to destroy him? Ruyan steps forward. Who are you?
She sends him to legal, giving our main character an unreadable glance.
Wait outside. She handles it. Standing in her office, his face burns with absolute shame. How to thank me? A massive twist. She wants him to plan her upcoming wedding. But he has no wedding experience. She notes he handled a massive festival easily before. Next day, he meets the groom. A wealthy elite matching her perfectly, but Chen Qian is actually super friendly. Ji Boxiao keeps it professional, introducing himself as their wedding planner. Bro, get me water! But before our MC can move, Ruyan cuts in impatiently, calling the secretary. Chen Qian senses the tension. Ji Boxiao quickly redirects to the wedding details. No demands? Stunned. Ruyan smiles. Cover it in flowers. She wants sunny day playing. Those were the exact promises Ji Boxiao made to her. But he is not the groom anymore. Low-key heartbreaking, guys.
He forces a nod.
Sensing the weird vibe, Chen Qian immediately drags our MC out for lunch. No fancy restaurant. He takes him straight to a cheap roadside hot pot stall. Craving it for 2 years, Ji Boxiao smiles. Chen Qian digs in, complaining about foreign food like a normal kid. Why no wedding requests? It is just a business marriage. Chen Qian does not even like Ruyan. Ji Boxiao apologizes. Honestly, Ruyan is perfect in every single way. Do you like her? Chen Qian reads him like a book. You cannot hide love in your eyes. He reveals his secret. The person he loves is violent and has a terrible temper.
Yet they are letting him marry someone else.
Love, companionship, and marriage. 3 completely different things in the adult world. Let's get drinks.
At the bar, Chen Qian orders premium champagne, letting loose.
He even orders girls. Ji Boxiao is flustered. Kids these days are built different, but his tolerance is trash. Passed out cold, Ji Boxiao has to call Ruyan for a rescue. This guy is acting wild and drunk, leaving Ji Boxiao completely lost. Suddenly, a tall girl with a terrifyingly cold aura appears out of nowhere.
She glares at the wasted Chen Qian, kicks him straight to the ground, and then immediately turns around.
With a polite smile, she says she is his sister, taking him home, then tells the other hostesses to look after the guests. The girls immediately crowd him, begging the cold, handsome boss for a drink. While Ji Boxiao sits there totally overwhelmed, his ex, Liu Ruyan, suddenly appears. Talk about a wild plot twist. Her low laughter fills the room. Ji Boxiao instantly panics, worrying she thinks he ordered all these hostesses himself.
Without warning, Liu Ruyan sits right on his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck to stare into his eyes.
She whispers that the girl was actually Chen Chen's ex, not his sister. Then she gets close, suggesting they start an affair.
Mocking him, she asks why he got a substitute lookalike when he claimed he did not even like her type.
Ji Boxiao avoids her eyes, but she grabs his face, demanding to know when he will divorce now that the original is back. He firmly refuses.
In a flash, she rips the ring off his finger and throws it away, mocking him for wearing cheap junk. Mockingly, she asks if he is scared she will cling to old feelings. Ji Boxiao quietly replies that of course he is not. Asking why President Liu would do something so absurd, she admits she has done plenty of crazy things before kissing him. It is a rough, painful kiss. His eyes tear up as she starts crying, desperately asking if he ever missed her over the years. He lies and says no, but man, this is low-key heartbreaking because he actually dreamed about her constantly. In the dream, he meets a 30-year-old Liu Ruyan. She's married to a foreigner and has a cute mixed baby. They bump into each other on a street corner, and her kid asks why this strange uncle is staring at them.
Liu Ruyan calmly says he is just some old classmate she barely remembers. Then she asks him what he actually wants. Demanding to know what she was to him, she cries out, asking why he treated her so badly.
Ji Boxiao finally breaks down in tears. Liu Ruyan looks at him with red eyes, begging him to just comfort her for once.
Looking at her, one voice in his head tells him to be brave and choose happiness, but another voice whispers the harsh truth.
He knows they can never have a future together. He quietly tells her that he does not love her anymore.
It starts raining outside, reminding him that sunny days only exist in his dreams now. Their youth is officially over. Young love is reckless and beautiful, like a wild rose. But he is 30 years old now, a late bloomer. He realizes that while it is okay to love recklessly when young, letting go is the mature thing to do. Their relationship was his first love and only true bravery, ending without any dramatic, crazy twists. They simply loved each other, but were not compatible. Back in college, she used to message him constantly on QQ.
But they had a 12-hour time difference. She always told him that even if he saw the moon first, they shared the same day.
Leaving sweet notes on his social media, she would tell him to let the moon know she loved him. Her messages shared her amazing adventures, like seeing Niagara Falls or looking over New York. Talking about shopping on Fifth Avenue together, she always felt something was missing without him there. But back then, he was working and studying non-stop, barely surviving on cheap cafeteria food and missing free soup deadlines. He had to ration his phone data and worked a restaurant job for just 6 yuan an hour. They lived in two completely different worlds, but they kept trying, until one phone call changed everything. His roommate suddenly blurted out that a guy named Zhao Yan liked him, which Liu Ruyan overheard on the call. Hearing this, she immediately asks who Zhao Yan is, but Ji Boxiao explains he was just a classmate. They were both struggling, fatherless students who only crossed paths at the cheapest food stalls. Zhao Yan would occasionally save him a seat. Liu Ruyan asked if he liked him, then asked if he liked her. When Ji Boxiao admitted he liked her, she suddenly confessed and asked him to pursue her, leaving him completely dazed. The very next day, she unexpectedly showed up at his school, claiming confessions must be done face-to-face.
Standing there in the sunlight, she tells him she is easy to win over if he would just say those words.
Right there, Ji Boxiao finally confessed that he liked her so much. It was the only time in his life he was truly reckless. She joyfully jumped into his arms. He kissed her on an empty campus path, and though she tried acting cool, her face turned bright red. That is how their long-distance relationship started, filled with her childishly spamming him whenever he was too busy to reply. Basically, Zhou helplessly explains he is always working or in class, but his girlfriend, Ruyan, gets mad and demands he coax her.
Coax her? Our boy has zero game. She just smirks and says, "Call me baby," to be forgiven, teasing him until he completely surrenders.
Honestly, she is so sweet. She understands his struggles and protects his pride by only sending cheap gifts so he won't feel pressured.
She even flies across the world just to see him. They hold hands and kiss, but Zhou always stops before the final intimate step.
This is low-key heartbreaking. He loves her, but he's terrified he can't give her a future and will only end up holding her back.
He's scared she will fall too deep. She always gets mad about his boundaries, thinking he doesn't love her enough. Then she notices his worn-out, peeling shoes.
On his birthday, she gifts him new shoes covered in foreign writing. He doesn't recognize the brand, and she claims they are super cheap.
He treasures them too much to wear them, but then tragedy strikes. His grandmother falls and needs surgery, leaving him 3,200 yuan short.
Grandma tells him to just let her die, but Jojo lies, saying the treatment is free and that she needs to live to 100.
He promises to buy her a big house and travel the world together once he graduates. After hesitating for hours, he finally makes a call.
He calls Ruyan, begging to borrow 3,200 yuan, promising to pay her back with his scholarship. His pride is completely crushed.
Everything he fought to protect vanishes in a second. Ruyan instantly sends him 10,000 yuan, asking if it is enough. He only accepts the 3,200. She gently tells him he is her boyfriend now and will be her husband one day.
She says he will have to support her later, manage the money, and ask her for allowance. She wants him to feel the future early. She knows he is independent, but hates seeing him suffer. Hearing this, Jojo completely breaks down in tears after hanging up.
The very next day, she flies back and literally drops into his world. Together, they rush to the hospital to see his grandma. She holds his hand tightly outside the operating room. The surgery is a success, and Grandma smiles, happy that Jojo has someone now. Ruyan jokes that Grandma must live to see them get married and raise their babies, making the sweet old lady laugh and promise to stay. But she never gets to see that day. On a completely ordinary afternoon, Grandma collapses right on the street. She is still clutching fresh, jumping shrimp in her hand, but her heart has stopped. The doctor says it was sudden heart failure. The doctor asks if she had symptoms before. Jojo just shakes his head. Grandma always hid her pain to avoid worrying him.
He blames himself for being so useless. She picked up trash to raise him, so why could she not wait just one more year? He was so close to graduating, but the doctor just sighs, telling him to prepare for the funeral.
Morgue fees, the hearse, the urn, cremation. The brutal reality of these expenses hit him all at once. He is completely broke. He cannot even afford his own grandmother's funeral. Desperate, a former coworker tells him about a job that pays incredibly fast. The guy works at a private club singing for guests, making massive money daily, and offers to hook Jojo up. But there is a catch. It is not just singing. Before he can decide, Ruyan's wealthy mother suddenly invites him to her mansion. Wearing his cleanest clothes and those precious unworn shoes, he prepares for drama. But Ruyan's mother is surprisingly gentle and welcoming. Stepping into their massive villa for the first time, Zozo finally realizes the insane wealth gap between their two worlds. Ruyan's designer bags literally cover an entire wall. A single bag costs more than he could make working for years. Her collection could easily buy several apartments. The cheap bags she used around him were actually her least expensive ones. She bought them on purpose so she wouldn't intimidate him. Her mother gently notes she knows they are dating. She reveals Ruyan is failing classes because she keeps flying back to see him. Panic-stricken, Jojo can only stammer apologies. Her mother softly explains Ruyan has a bright future ahead, while dropping the bombshell that she knows his father is in prison. She politely offers financial help, but her gentle words carry a crushing weight. He feels completely stripped of his dignity. He politely declines, but she just smiles and calls him a smart kid, noting that is why Ruyan has stayed with him. She mentions how Ruyan has always been kind-hearted, constantly bringing home stray animals she pitied on the streets. The implication is brutal. She views Jojo as just another stray. Then she notices his expensive limited edition shoes. He leaves the mansion feeling utterly humiliated. When he looks up the shoes online, his jaw drops. They are extremely rare. They sell for 30,000 yuan. He is forced to sell them as second-hand for just 10,000 to survive. He uses that money to bury his grandmother. When Ruyan calls him repeatedly, he finally answers after days of silence.
She is furious and worried sick, demanding to know where he was. Holding back his tears, Xiao Xiao cannot even speak. He lies and says he just missed her. Deeply moved, she immediately flies across the globe again just to hold him. He urges her to stop coming and focus on her studies. That night, she books a hotel room for them.
Normally, they just cuddle quietly until morning, but after her shower, she slides into his arms, completely vulnerable. Ruyan whispers that Boxiao's body can't hide his true feelings. He is holding back so hard he can't even look, but she eagerly kisses him. She says she is willing to give him everything. They will get married, have a baby, and be rich. The bed feels soft as cotton. Lying there, his suppressed emotions explode into pure desire. He cannot hold back anymore, taking control and calling her name over and over in the dark.
Her love is carved into his bones. Holding his beloved girl, he stays awake all night, and next morning, Ruyan hides under the blanket out of pure shyness.
He pulls her out with a laugh. She blushes, asking why he is awake so early before holding him tightly, with her face turning completely red.
She asks when he first fell for her. Stroking her messy hair, Boxiao admits it was when she played the piano and sang that song, Sunny Day.
Ruyan pouts, bragging that she liked him way earlier. When he asks how much earlier, she giggles, promising to tell him on their wedding day.
She dreams of a hall covered in fresh flowers, with Sunny Day playing as they walk in. He agrees, asking if she prefers Chinese or Western style.
She wants to wear a red gown, but also a white wedding dress. She cannot wait to see him get down on one knee so she can say, "I do." Ruyan keeps happily planning their future wedding. Boxiao memorizes every single detail. But here is the low-key heartbreaking part. He will end up breaking this promise. The next day, Boxiao's financial aid is suddenly canceled. To make things worse, Ruyan's mother shows up, offering to pay him off or sponsor his study abroad. Her only condition? Walk away. Stop holding her daughter back from her bright future. The mother stays polite. It hurts more than yelling. Then she drops a question that completely breaks his spirit. She asks if he can bear to let his princess suffer a poor life. She is right. A broke guy like him cannot even buy her a single luxury bag. Boxiao realizes he can never marry her. Honestly, his pride started crumbling the day he had to borrow money from her, leaving his self-esteem completely shattered. On a beautiful sunny day, he sees her off at the airport. He quietly asks if she would forget him if they ever broke up. She playfully jokes that if they split, she will immediately find a handsome foreign guy just to make him regret it. He mentions he also kept a matching Ollie the Fox plushie. She smiles, saying she always knew they were a pair. Then he brings up his old hidden message. He had written a confession on her textbook. She calls him a dummy, admitting she saw it long ago. He waves goodbye, letting her go. On an ordinary day, he lets go of the most important person in his life. He starts distancing himself, ignoring her calls, and ghosting her messages. They begin to argue. Finally, Boxiao brings up the breakup. Ruyan is completely devastated, having no idea what she did wrong. She cries out that he is a jerk. If she is mad, he just needs to comfort her. Why must they end things? Desperate to push her away, Boxiao uses a generic excuse he heard in his dorm, coldly telling Ruyan that she is just not his type. She calls him out on his obvious lie, since they dated for 2 years. Distraught, she runs to his dorm building, waiting outside in the cold. Looking down from his window, Boxiao finally understands what real heartbreak feels like. Seeing her suffer like that is absolutely agonizing for him. His chest tightens so hard he can barely breathe, every gasp bringing sharp pain. Eventually, her mother arrives and takes the crying girl away. He knows their paths will never cross again. Ruyan used to love romance novels, always complaining about characters who refused to communicate. She always said those silent lovers deserve to get hurt. But for someone as broke and insecure as Boxiao, speaking up feels completely impossible. He thinks a princess like her deserves the world. A broke guy like him does not deserve love at all. Love grows wildly, but fades away, leaving only deep regret. He tries to live normally and forget her, but her memory still haunts his dreams.
Over time, he realizes staying busy is the only cure. He throws himself into work, believing that financial security is his only path to healing.
Right after graduating, he survives in a cheap shared room for 500 yuan a month. 2 years into his first job, disaster strikes. After refusing to drink with a client, his boss fires him on the spot. Honestly, this is wild. Too broke for a taxi, he waits in the freezing cold, only to realize the last winter bus has already left. Walking alone through the dark streets, he sees countless glowing windows, but none are for him. An adult breakdown happens fast. As he crouches on the sidewalk crying, a familiar voice suddenly calls out. He looks up to see Zhou Yan standing there, surprised to run into him. Boxiao quickly brushes it off, saying he just missed the bus.
Feeling awkward, she offers him a ride on her electric scooter since it is Christmas and getting a cab is practically impossible. They swap contacts and she starts reaching out often. Eventually, he realizes she likes him and gently explains that he is not looking to date.
She asks if it is because of his ex, but he stays silent. Zhou Yan confesses she had a massive crush on him back in school.
She was too shy to confess back then, so she simply asks if they can start as friends now, gradually bringing warmth into his lonely life.
Zhou Yan shows her love through actions, bringing him homemade lunches at work and lining up to buy him the popular milk teas he likes.
But tasting the sweet tea only makes him miss Ruyan, the girl who once drank cheap milk tea and sang Sunny Day right beside him.
Just as things seem stable, Zhao Yan's mother corners him. She anxiously digs into his family background, looking completely terrified once she learns the truth. Crying, she begs him to stay far away from her daughter. She reveals his father is a convicted criminal, making him completely unfit for her. Since Zhao Yan needs a clean background check for a government job, his family history would ruin her. No decent family will ever accept him.
Life is basically a solo game. Maybe adult loneliness just means dealing with your own drama. So over the years, I
became a total lone wolf, working like crazy, making money, and forcing myself to learn how to drink, network, and play nice. I got slick, fake, and slowly turned into the exact person I used to hate. But my only escape is when Chewy, my limping cat, comes running. I hold him close, listening to his purrs as his soft paws rest on me. He purrs so softly, looking so cute that he always reminds me of her. I gently squeeze his paw and promise him the best treats. But Chewy is getting old, and he barely eats anymore. I stroke his head, quietly whispering that everything will be okay. Then, after work, I run into Liu Ruyan's mom. Time has barely touched her. She looks at me, surprised, saying Ji Boxiao has really changed. I tell her she looks exactly the same. She smiles warmly, saying I've grown mature and successful, adding that Liu Ruyan has changed too, but some things never change. She worked so hard, built a career, and did so well. But then, her mom drops a bomb. She told her daughter it is time to marry, and Liu Ruyan just said to choose whoever she liked. Everything seemed fine, but she changed her mind. She claims Liu Ruyan's rebellion is all because of me. Turns out my toxic dad extorted her for $300,000. She asks if I can understand a mother's heart, but this time I do not hide. I just smile. No head-hanging or apologies this time. I tell her I cannot understand because I never had a mother, though I never blamed her either. I still remember her comforting me at 16, giving me hope. I tell her I am grateful for the respect she once gave me. But I am 30 now, not 18. She does not need to walk on eggshells. I know exactly what she wants, and I won't ruin her daughter. I promise to repay that money immediately. Honestly, this amount is nothing to me now. The last person I want to owe is her. I stay perfectly calm, but then her mom drops a line that freezes me solid. She reveals Liu Ruyan secretly lost their baby 10 years ago. Bro, this plot twist is actually wild. She demands I stay away. I transfer the $300,000 back, buy glittering crystal heels, and hand them in with my resignation. It instantly takes me back to 18 when she bought me sneakers and asked me to buy her crystal shoes one day. She was my princess, deserving of everything beautiful. Instead of driving, I decide to just walk. Walking the busy streets is my go-to when I am sad, just watching the endless traffic and crowds of people. Under the neon lights, I feel like a tiny ant, but the physical exhaustion somehow numbs the pain. Then, a Valentine's billboard catches my eye. My true love already loved me at 20. Wherever she ends up at 30, I just want her to be happy. But then, her voice rings out from right behind me. She asks if money can really erase our entire history. I turn around and see her trench coat fluttering in the cold wind. Holding back tears, I ask if she was pregnant back then. She clenches her fists, her voice shaking as she admits we almost had a baby. Right after our breakup, she lost it. She dreamed of our baby asking why she did not want him, saying he would find another mom. It is so tragic. The doctor told her it was a chemical pregnancy. She breaks down completely, sobbing and shaking as she calls his name. Ji Boxiao, she gasps. She really wanted that baby. Even if they broke up, she wanted to raise him alone. But she says the baby was just like me, saving money by only costing 247 yuan for the checkup. She weeps silently against my shoulder. She says she finally understands why I left back then, knowing my grandmother had passed away.
She cries over how much pain I was in. I apologize for selling the shoes, but she just smiles through her tears.
She says she is easy to please. She just wanted to hear me call her baby again. She has been waiting for me. Holding me tight, she whispers that she never changed her number, but I never called, so she decided to chase me down. Back in the winter of 2017, she actually came back for me, but saw another girl waiting to walk me home. Seeing that girl look so in love with me, she lost the courage to even ask if I had moved on. She laughs at her own weakness, but when she saw me on a live stream looking so confident in a suit,
she booked a flight home that very day. She wanted to take one final gamble on us, no matter the cost.
By now, I am crying like a baby. She gently wipes my tears and asks if we can give love one more shot. I try to pull myself together. After a long, painful silence, I look at her and whisper her name. Let's not, I say. She asks if I don't love her anymore. I do, but I cannot ruin her life. Calculated and weighed by pros and cons. Honestly, this part hits so deep. You have to kill your own feelings when there's no future. All those wild impulses get crushed by the reality of letting go. I let her slip back into the crowd. But as I reach home, Yu Zihai is blocking my door, demanding 300,000 to finally get out of my life.
Ji Boxiao tried to kick him out, but the leech demanded $3 million first. Opening the door with a numb smile, Ji Boxiao told him his little scheme was officially dead.
He told him they were completely done, and he would never get another single cent from his hands. His entire life was already ruined because of him. If he could only travel back in time, he would tell his so-called mother? Abort him right away, because childhood wounds literally take an entire lifetime to heal. He just let Yu Zihai keep screaming abuse outside the door. On New Year's Day, Ji Boxiao came home. But then, no greeting. There was no little snowball limping over to meet him. On the balcony, he found his little pet lying fast asleep, never to wake up again. He whispered, asking if his only companion had left him too. Just like that unborn child he never even got to know about years ago. Homeless and completely alone again, he swallowed sleeping pill after sleeping pill, desperate for rest, until exhaustion finally took over. Finally, his eyes closed. Through the darkness, a desperate voice echoed, begging Boxiao not to sleep and promising to sing to him. The voice started singing about how once upon a time, someone loved him for a very long time, but the wind slowly blew them far apart. The singer's voice cracked, dissolving into quiet sobs, while Ji Boxiao drifted away into a deep, heavy dream. Waking up, he saw the bloodshot eyes of Liu Ruyan. Ji Boxiao muttered a soft apology, saying he just couldn't sleep and felt sick. Honestly, his personality was such a mix of hot and cold. Confident yet deeply insecure, constantly shattering and piecing himself back together. Honestly, this emotional roller coaster is low-key heartbreaking. He always braced for the absolute worst outcome. That way, whatever happened, he could face it calmly. It was as if he had lost the ability to love or be loved, locking himself inside a mental fortress, fully awake to his own misery. Liu Ruyan desperately wanted to save him, pleading with Ji Boxiao to let her pull him out of his shell. But to him, an abandoned child never dared to dream of special treatment or unconditional love. She gently patted his head, whispering for him to be brave because they would never be younger than they were today. Gently, she promised that things would get better for them.